Alright, so today we're going to be creating a shop layout. So this is going to build upon kind of the workstation layout we did previously. So we're going to create a room to put everything in. We're going to put a conveyor belt in this room, so a new piece of equipment. And then around that conveyor belt, we're going to place our previously created workstations. This is useful because it allows us to kind of see how things are laid out in space, potentially move things around in simulation to see how that might affect the workflow. And it doesn't require us to move around the pieces of furniture and kind of looking at it in real life. This is also helpful if you need to rearrange your house. If you want to create a CAD model for that, so that way you don't have to move the couch a bunch of times just to see how it looks in different spaces. So first we're going to create some components. So we're going to do a new component. The first one we're going to name is shop. So this is going to be the room itself. We're going to create another component. Call this one conveyor. Say OK. We're going to start working on the shop. So I'm going to click on that to make it active. And then we're going to create a sketch for what we want the walls to look like. So I am going to select the bottom plane for the sketch. And drawing a rectangle and centering it is one of those activities we're going to keep going back to. So I selected the 2-point rectangle in the top corner, drew that out, and then created a line along the diagonal. We're going to change that line to construction, so I'm going to click on that and press X to change it to construction. And then we're going to make the midpoint of that line on the origin. So I can come up here and select midpoint, click on the origin and the line. And that should center everything for us. Now we are going to go ahead and add dimensions for this. So I want this to be 18 meters. So I press D to get the dimension tool. Say 18 meters. And then for the width, I want it to be 12 meters. So I'm going to say 12 meters. So that should give us the floor area that we want. But we also need these walls to have some thickness. So I'm going to press Escape and then come up here to the Offset tool. You can also just press O. And we need to select the curve we want to offset about. So I'm going to select the line we just drew. The distance, we want 25 centimeters. And it looks like it's wanting to put this inside of the box we previously drew. So I'm going to flip the dimension so that way it's drawing it on the outside. That way we're not kind of reducing the amount of floor space that we have. So that looks good, so I'm going to go ahead and press OK. And let's see. I think that's everything for this, so I'm going to go ahead and finish sketch. And now we need to actually kind of extrude this. So come up here and press extrude. We're going to do the profile we want is the area between the two rectangles. We're going to do it from the profile plane in one side. And we want this to be a 6 meter tall wall. So I'm going to hit 6 meters and it's going to create a new body. So I can shift and middle click to rotate. And that looks good. It looks like it's extruding up, which is what we want. So I'm going to go ahead and say OK. So now we have a bunch of walls. But we need a floor. So to do that, I'm going to come and select the bottom. So that'll be the plane we're sketching on. create a sketch, and then press R to get the rectangle, 2-point rectangle tool, and just drag one from the top left outside corner to the bottom right outside corner. And that should give us the shape we want for a floor. So then I'm just going to finish the sketch. And then we're going to extrude that. So coming back to extrude, select the shape that we want to extrude. So I'm going to select that. I may not have needed to make the sketch for that in Fusion. It looks like it probably would have been okay if I just clicked the shapes, but a lot of other CAD softwares require the sketches, so I went ahead and did it anyways. So one-sided distance, we're going to make this the same thickness as the wall, so 25 centimeters. And we're going to join it, so it's not creating a separate body, it's just going to include that in with the walls. So that looks good. We have a box with an open top. So now we need to cut a door in this, so I'm going to go ahead and select this inside wall. I'm doing the inside wall because that gives us a line at the floor that we can use as a reference. So with that, I'm going to click sketch. Gonna do a 2-point rectangle again. And I want this door centered on the lateral axis of the wall. And then I want it to connect at the floor. So that way we don't have a weird threshold that we need to come on top of. So I'm going to go ahead and press escape and rotate this up so I can see a little bit better. And I'm going to make this line's midpoint on the origin. Because we set the origin at the floor level, the origin for this drawing should be right at that corner. So that gives us what we need there, and then we're going to dimension this. So I'm going to press D, select the height, and make that 4 meters. Select the width. Oh, is it selecting? Okay. Couldn't see it that it was selecting, so I had to redo it. But make that 4 meters as well. So that looks good. I'm going to finish the sketch. And now we would like to cut that out. So to cut, we use the same tool we do to create material. So here we're just going to go up to extrude. Select that door. We want it one-sided. We're going to go through all, and that looks like it's going through the whole shop and then cutting on the other wall. So we're going to go ahead and flip the direction, so it's cutting through the wall we drew on, and then just making sure that the operation we're using is in fact cut. So that looks good. Let's say OK, and I think that finishes out the shape of the room itself. So next up, we need to create a conveyor. So I'm going to come over here and make the conveyor active. I'm going to go ahead and hide the shop for now, just so it's not getting in the way. Oh, I never placed the shop in position. So I'm gonna make the shop active again, but I want to fix its origin to the origin of the overall design. So to do that, we're going to come up here to joint. I'm going to select the origin of the shop, then the origin of the overall design. Select the motion, make sure it's rigid. That looks okay. I don't want any sort of offset on this, so I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. So now the shop shouldn't be able to be moved in the design. So now I'll hide it and come down and make the conveyor active. So I'm gonna start by drawing a roller for the conveyor. So the conveyor is just going to be a box that holds a bunch of cylinders, and those cylinders are essentially rollers. So kind of cylinders that either passively or actively spin to help move things along the direction of the conveyor. So I'm going to start with a sketch. I'm going to select the front plane. So that's this one here. And then I'm going to start by drawing a circle. I can either click up here or press C to do a circle. I'm going to select the origin for that and then drag it out. So that way the center point's on the origin. And then I'm going to dimension it. So press D to get the dimensioning tool. And this is supposed to be 5 centimeters. So I'm going to just select that axis, do 5 centimeters, and it should get real tiny. Just because we were working at like the 10 meter scale before. So now we're working at the 5 centimeter scale. So big jump, so we can zoom in. That looks okay. So I'm going to go ahead and finish the sketch. And now we need to extrude this. So I'm going to hit E for extrude. It looks like I had already selected that sketch. And profile plane, I'm going to make this symmetric. So even directions in the left and right, and the measurement is the whole length. Because we want the width of the whole structure to be 75 centimeters, I'm going to make the box width 1 centimeter on the top and bottom side. So I'm going to go ahead and say this is 73 centimeters. So that way, once we add a centimeter on either side, we have that full width of 75 centimeters. And this will be a new body. So that looks good. So now we need to create a housing for this. So I'm going to go ahead and create another sketch. Select the bottom plane. So, and draw a rectangle. Like so. We're going to center that as well. So come up, draw a line, create a diagonal, hit escape, select the line, press X to make construction, and then again select the triangle for midpoint, select the line and the origin. Not sure that one. There it goes. And that should create the box. We want to be able to kind of have this in line with the end of the roller. So to do that, we need to create a geometry to kind of connect it to. So I'm going to come up here, create, and we're going to use the intersect tool, and we're going to select the end cap of the roller. I only really need to select one because it's going to be symmetric, but I don't know. I like to select both just for symmetry's sake. So this creates a line at the top and bottom. I'm going to go ahead and select those and make construction as well. So select both, press X. And now I can drag this line to be collinear with this. So I select that line, select this line, and this button up here with one line on top of another line is for collinear. So that should bring it down, so that way it's touching. So now we've got the inner wall of the top and bottom of the conveyor. We need to set the length. So I'm going to press D to get dimensioning tool. Select the length. And we want the total length of this to be 12 meters. But again, the wall thickness is going to be 1 centimeter. So we subtract 1 centimeter twice to give us 1 centimeter on either end. So that gives us a very long rectangle. And then we're going to use the offset tool again. So this time I'm just going to press O, select the outer shape. We want this to be 1 centimeter. And now I'm going to scroll in. So it looks like that put it on the inside again. So I'm going to flip that to make it on the outside. And that looks good. So I'm going to press OK. And that should give us a shape to make a structure for supporting the rollers. So I'm going to go ahead and finish the sketch. And then we're going to extrude. So we want the profile to be the area between those two rectangles again. So we're going to select that. This time we're not going to be symmetric, but we're going to go in 2 different directions. So the first direction, we're going to need a point to go to. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel this. And we're going to go back to the sketch for the roller. So if we come down here, the roller was the first thing we sketched. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that and edit sketch. And then I'm going to create a point. So there. Click on the top, hit escape, see if we can move it. So we can drag it around, which we don't want. We want it kind of at the very top of the circle. So I'm going to come up here and select horizontal and vertical. Click on this point and the origin, and that'll bring it and fix it directly above the origin. So this is going to be a point that we can extrude to. So that way we don't have to set a distance, we can go directly to that. So I'm going to go ahead and finish the sketch. And I'm going to show that sketch. Oh, that's the wrong thing. So expand out the conveyor, sketches, let's show that sketch. All right, so now we're going to go back and extrude. So extrude right here. We're going to do 2 sides. This first one we're going to go to object, and we're going to select that point. So this should make the top of this border the exact same height as the roller. So that's what we want in this case. In the second direction, we're going to do a distance. So we want this to be 90 centimeters tall. We know that the roller is 5 centimeters. So our sketch plane is in the middle of the roller. So we need to subtract off half the diameter of the roller, so 2.5 centimeters. And I'm going to create this as a new body because I want the outer shell to be separate from the rollers. So that's going to give us two distinct bodies for that. So now we have one roller in the middle of a big box. So we want to create a bunch more rollers. So to do that, we're going to come up here to create pattern and rectangular pattern. So this is going to allow us to kind of duplicate the roller in two directions. We only really want to do it in one direction because we don't need like a rectangle of rollers. We just need a line of rollers. So object type, we are going to do bodies, and we're going to select the roller body. Axes, we're going to select kind of this edge of the box. So that's going to extrude it out along that direction. So how many of these do we want? So we're going to do this extent. So we're going to set like a total length that we want them and how many we want inside of that length. So if my math is correct, 235 should be the right amount. The distance, we're going to do symmetric. So we're going to the left and to the right. It's going to be 6 meters. So the overall length of the conveyor is 12 meters. We want to remove some distance for the roller. So remove half the roller diameter, so 2.5 centimeters. The wall thickness at that end is 1 centimeter. So we're going to take that off as well. And then we also want a little bit of the gap so the roller's not rubbing against the edge of the wall. So we're going to say 1 millimeter. So that should do it in that direction. In the second direction, we don't want anything, so we'll just say 1. So we just have the initial roll. We can double check our work by scrolling into the edge. So it does look like we have a little space in between there and a little gap between the rollers so they're not rubbing against each other. So it looks like I mathed correctly. So we're going to go ahead and say OK. And now we have 235 rollers. That's much nicer than kind of individually doing all of those circles. One of the things we could have also done is we could have done a pattern in a sketch to create them all at once, but I didn't particularly want to do that here. All right, so now we need to locate this part again. Unlike with the shop, the origin for this one's at the roller, and if we put the rollers at the origin of the overall design, the rollers are going to be on the floor and the box is going to be kind of pushed through the bottom of the floor, which isn't what we want. So we need to create a new reference point that we're going to use for that. So for that, I'm going to select this bottom surface as the sketch plane, create a sketch. And then now, instead of doing like a diagonal or something and creating a point on that, I'm going to come up here to project include and do a projection. So this will take whatever I select and make it whatever its position would be on the plane we selected. It creates that shape there. So I'm going to say the origin and OK. So that should give us a reference point at the origin of the drawing. So that looks good. Let's say finish sketch. And now we can use that for our joint. So I'm going to show the shop again, just so we can make sure the placement is good. Joint under assembly. We're going to select that point we just created and then the origin of the overall design. Just going to drag it up. We don't want any sort of rotation or offset. The motion is rigid, so that looks good. I'm going to say OK. All right, so we have a conveyor in the middle of a room. So now we need to add in those workstations that we wanted. So I'm going to come in over here and grab my worker. So my unique name, exercise 1.1 workers. Grab that and just pull it in. All right. So right now, the worker's kind of facing in this direction. I want the worker kind of facing in this direction. So I need to do a rotation. So if I click on the rotate button, select the axis. So on this worker, I select the z-axis. So that's the vertical one. And I'm going to rotate by 90. So that gets the worker facing in the direction I want. So that seems okay. And now I need to kind of put them in position. So I want this corner aligned with the corner of the conveyor. I want it also at the floor. So instead of doing the top, I'm going to do it at the floor. So that way, if I change the height of the table or the height of the conveyor, both of them are kind of still in position. So come up here to joint, select this corner, come up to the conveyor, select that corner. And I want a 5 centimeter gap. So if I look up here, it's in the Y direction. So I'm going to say 5 centimeters. It looks like that was the wrong direction. So I'm going to, oops. All right, not going to hit flip. That's not what we want. I'm going to make it in the minus 5 centimeter direction. So that gives us a little bit of space between the conveyor and the bench. So that looks good, so I'm going to go ahead and press OK. And now, one of the things I could do is I could drag in individual workers and repeat this process over and over again with them. But I'm going to kind of take the lazy path and do a pattern with them. So again, do a rectangular pattern. This time I'm going to do it on the component. So rather than just bringing in one of the bodies from the workstation, I'm going to bring in full workstations. So I am going to select this worker. The axis, I'm going to select this short axis of the table. How many do I want? So along that axis, I want 4 of them. I want them a 2 meter gap, 2 meter gap between each of the tables. The tables are 1 meter in depth, so I'm going to make this 3 meters. And we did extent, so I put all of the tables in the 3 meters. So we want spacing. So this is going to define the gap between each of the tables. So now I have 3 meters. So from this point on this table to this point on this table, there's 3 meters. And this doesn't have to be perfect because this isn't fixing the table position. It's just roughly laying it out. So you can go back and when we fix it or create the joints, it'll put them in the position we want. So in axis 2, I want another set of these on the other side of the conveyor. So I'm going to do 2. For distance, the conveyor is 75 centimeters wide, and then we have a 5 centimeter gap on either side. So I need this to be 2 meters, which is the width of the table, plus 85 centimeters. And that put it on the wrong side. So I'm going to put parentheses around these and a minus sign. So that flips the direction, and it looks like it's in the right position. We have a little bit of gap, so I'm going to say OK. Is this faster than kind of doing them individually? Maybe not, because now we still have to go in and create the joints. But I feel a little bit better about it. And if nothing else, we've learned a new tool. So now we need to kind of fix the position of each of these. So I'm going to come up and do joint again. I'm going to select kind of these bottom corners on each table. So that would bring them together. But I want them to be 2 meters apart, and that should be in the X direction. So I'm going to do an X offset of 2 meters. Did not like that. I'm going to do a Y offset of 2 meters. That looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And we can see now we have this table fixed as well. So I'm going to repeat that for each of these tables. So boom, boom, Y offset 2 meters. Offset 2 meters. And then I'm going to do the joint for the bottom row. So as before, we're going to select the front corners of these, create the joint, and I'm going to do an offset of 5 centimeters. And this time it's in the positive direction, so that looks good. So that one is fixed, and now I'm going to repeat the same spacing for the tables on the bottom row. So joint, click, click, 2 meters. Joint, click. Sometimes you have to zoom in a little bit to make sure you're selecting the right point on the leg. 2 meters. And joint, just click J, select. Select 2 meters. All right. So each of those tables should be fixed in position now. All right. So the next step is making sure we are showing what we want. So we want half of these to be the 95th percentile female and half to be the, or 5th percentile female and half to be the 95th percentile male. So let me go ahead and hide the things we're not working on. For convenience sake, I'm going to make the first for the 5th percentile female and the second for the 95th percentile male. You can kind of alternate or do what you want, as long as half are one and half are the other. So I'm just going to come up here and I'm going to hide that, and hide that, and that. So the top row should all be 5th percentile female. And then if I come down here, I can hide the 5th percentile female. So if I look from the side, I can see I have both 5th percentile female and 95th percentile male, half and half. So that looks good, and I think that finishes up our shop floor. So now all I have to do is go ahead and save this. So Control S, we're going to do unique name. This is exercise 1.2. And we're going to call it shop. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. Because we have an externally linked file, to export, we need to come up to File, Export, and I'm going to go ahead and remove the version on this, but save it as an F3Z, and you can select kind of whichever location you want to save it to. Hit export. Might take a little bit. Yeah, but that is how you create a shop floor layout. So I will see you in the next video where we'll be creating a drawing of this layout.